Yes?
So it's sometimes hard to not participate in gossip. Or sometimes when I want to say, maybe vent about a person, then I said gossip. But if I don't vent, I feel really so I always struggle with gossip, and I wonder if you could share.
The fourth precept is actually quite simple. The fourth precept is intentionally lying. The gossiping, the backbiting, the swearing, and using bad language. That's part of right speech. It's part of these 8 precepts for lay people, which takes out some of the things. But breaking the 4th precept, if we're just taking the 5 precepts, is intentionally lying. It's not, the gossiping and stuff is not breaking a precept. It's just not practicing samavacha. So forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. It's sometimes the translation of the 4th precept is false speech, and then it goes into a long explanation of it. But actually, it's musavada. It's actually lying. For bhikkhus, it's sampajana musavada, lying in full awareness. And then there are other precepts about gossiping and tale-bearing and backbiting and that sort of stuff. But that's for monks. For lay people, the 4th precept is just intentionally lying. So you're probably doing fine. Yes, you could practice. You can practice right speech, and that's the refraining from Radha, but that's a practice. And maybe that helps. Forgive yourself. Start again.
Okay, but on practicing right speech then.
Yeah.
Sometimes I find just in a group it's really hard to not participate.
Breathe. I find that if I know whether the breath is coming in or going out, then how I am in the present changes. And it's coming back to the Satipatthana. And that is a safe thing to give attention to. And just knowing if you're with a group, then knowing your breath will change how you are in that group. And then the impulse is to practice wrong speech, or just follow an old habit. You've got something that's putting a brake on that old habit, because you've got the breath that's anchoring you. Yeah? And when we're heedless, when we don't know really what's going on, then we just follow the blind habits. And the blind habits are to do with massaging our position in society, because we're slightly anxious about whether we're going to be accepted, or what people are going to think about us, or we just like the titillation of chatting about things. And that's, it's not grown up. When we are, when we grow up, we recognise that it's a childish thing to be doing. And one of the ways of bringing ourselves to not being heedless is to give attention to something that's important that we don't usually notice. And of course, the breath is something that's important, because if we're not breathing, we're in trouble. And we don't usually notice it. Usually when you're talking to somebody, usually when you're doing something, you don't know whether you're breathing in or breathing out. And yet, when you do know, when I know whether I'm breathing in or breathing out, it shifts how the present is for me and for others. So just that's away, then you're less likely to regret. All of the precepts actually help you stop regretting. That's the, and of course they're incredibly generous, because it helps everybody if you're keeping the precepts. But don't make the precepts something that even the precepts can be misused. They can be misused by using them as something that you look down on other people because they're not doing it. Yeah? They don't keep the precept. Yeah? When that happens in your heart, notice that you're then misusing a beautiful tool. Yeah? You've got a lovely tool, and you're misusing it. And the other person you can beat up is yourself. I can't keep the precepts good enough. I'm a hopeless person, I keep breaking the precepts. And that doesn't help either. So then you start stabbing yourself with the precepts as you attack. And then it's painful, because then you don't want to keep the precepts, because I don't want to have anything to do with the precepts, because if I try to keep the precepts, I just stab myself. So you stop keeping the precepts. So it doesn't help. To actually, there are ways of developing wisdom. So if they work, there are ways of developing wisdom. You know your intention before you do something. You know then as you do something what you're doing. And then you know the result from that. And that's the way of using the precepts for sati sampajanya. Because then you're using the precepts to be more alive, rather than just blindly following them, or beating yourself up with them, or beating other people up with them in your mind. All of them. They're different from the laws. The precepts are different from laws. The laws are sort of fixed. They sometimes change, but they have a sort of definite sort of tick, 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 keep this law, and then all the punishment. Precepts are not like that. They're a gift. They can be practiced with. They can be developed. Your attitude towards them can shift. And how you keep them, and use them to grow. Don't, not as a sense of, as an identity that you take on. I'm somebody who keeps the precepts. That's going to make a lot of problems for yourself, and for others. If you hold on to that, yes, you are somebody who keeps the precepts, but use them as a training in human behavior, because we recognize that we're incredibly bound up with the animal kingdom. Actually, this is an animal body. It has animal instincts. It reacts like an animal into many, many situations, because this is the nature of this. Really, this is the focus of our sense of who we are. We don't tend to have our sense of ourselves outside of this body. We do in some respects, as we have our identity as in society and that, but this body keeps bringing us down. And the animals don't keep the precepts. They can't keep the precepts. They may be harmless, or they may be beautiful, or they can't intentionally say, I will keep the 5 precepts. They don't have the capacity to. And a human and that's what we're really got the opportunities to practice as humans. And a fully human being is an enlightened being. Most of us, a lot of the time, are slightly mad humans with bits of animal behavior And also, well, in some respects, we're like gods. Also, and that's why, as I was saying yesterday, parents are a bit like gods to their children. At some stage, at the first they're slaves. Looking after the kids, it's like you're like a slave. And then as you get a little bit, as the kids get a bit older, they realise that the parents are like gods. You have to pray to them and placate them, and then you get what you want. So, in the Sri Lankan society, you bow to your parents, which is actually very good, because then the parents have to think, well, what's a beautiful God? Because gods are not necessarily moral. Yeah? As you know, some gods are actually immoral. So what's God-like behaviour? And then you recognise that the practice of the Brahma Viharas is the Brahma God dwelling places. So the parents practice the Brahma Viharas. If they work well, they practice the Brahma Viharas. They practice Metta, Karuna, Mudita, Upekkha. They practice not dwelling in aversion to their kids, doing things so that they suffer less now and in the future. And that requires wisdom, appreciating all their goodness, and recognizing that they belong to nature, which is Upekkha. Kids do not belong to you. That's really difficult for parents to hear, but it's true. And then the kids, as they grow up, they come to be teenagers, and they recognize the gods are actually hopeless. And you can't trust anybody over 30. And, and the gods have messed everything up. Because you start to grow up and you recognize that the world's a mess. And you think, well, I can see exactly what should be done as you get to 16, 17. And then it starts to be recognized how difficult it is as you grow up a little bit more. But and the practice of being human is the practice of the 5 precepts. That's what humans can do. And the practice of being fully human is being enlightened. The training is the and the direction is the triple gem. This is what he says are most precious. This is where we go to. Where do you go to when you feel a little bit confused, a little bit upset, or very upset, and very in a lot of pain? Where do you go to for your refuge? If you say Buddham Saranam Gacchami, you go to the Buddha. Dhammam Saranam Gacchami, you go to the truth. You go to this is how it is. Sangham Saranam Gacchami, you want to practice as a human being upholding the truth in your life, in society. That's the refuge. We say, use the 5 precepts as your guide for that, because that's enough to say that'll keep society safe. If everybody kept the 5 precepts, we'd be in heaven. Yeah, but they can't. But at least nowadays, things like this, sometimes they have no smoking days. Yeah? They try to encourage everybody not to smoke. Less so nowadays because not so many people smoke. Whereas in the past, they have no meat days or something like that nowadays, sort of stuff, because of the communication. If we could make it, maybe for 2 or 3 days, if everybody on the planet could decide no killing of human beings day, it would change, wouldn't it? But we can imagine that nowadays, which we couldn't 60 years ago. But and you can see how the precepts could be used as trainings. But speeches are speeches, and coming back to how you're breathing is somewhat a way of coming back to the present moment. So if you're in a group, possibly group, then just breathing. Giving space for things to end. So when we don't respond to the gossip, and just keep quiet, or you say, I don't really know about that, I'm not sure, then you're giving space for that concept to die without confronting it. You shouldn't gossip. I shouldn't gossip. No, that's not going to work either. Rigid. But just breathing gently through it, seeing how that works.
Thank you.
Yes. We have a microphone.
Morning, Ajahn. I'd like to ask you regarding a dying person on the last day, where he tried to grab someone's hand to bite it. Is there any significance?
He tried to grab somebody's hand
And want to
bite it.
Want to bite it, but we're trying to prevent it.
I don't know in this particular case because I wasn't there, so it's difficult. But I've been around people dying and animals dying, and I think sometimes when an animal dies, I was around a cat that was dying, and just before it died, it went quite violent. It was a sort of and then and I think it's just like the last sort of gasp of the animal instinct. So don't give it any sort of significance. It's like you don't give so much significance if you hiccup.
No,
Yeah.
the thing is that actually it's my father.
Mm-hmm.
I was holding his hand, and he's okay. It's quite peaceful. When suddenly someone came in and also hold his hand, but his reaction is very weird. He just want to bite. He's trying to grab her hand and want to bite it.
I think it could be anything, or it could just be, as I say, just like a hiccup, or a sneeze, something quite unconscious and without any intention.
He cannot talk, but is it because of his anger?
No, don't speculate too much. If you make a whole speculation and a story about it, you can either believe that story or not. Yeah? And if I say it was because of his whatever it was, or if I say it's because of what she was doing, you can either believe me or not believe me. But it doesn't actually help you understand it was like this. And I feel that the most peaceful way of relating to it is, oh, that happened. That was interesting. Maybe it was just a leftover involuntary action as part of what being an animal is. It was definitely due to causes and conditions. If you want to know why he did that, it was because he was born. If you want to know why somebody dies, it's because they're born. And so, but don't over-analyze the specific behaviour. It makes it too complicated. And you start making all sorts of stories about it. It was like this, and it's part of how dying happens. There's the encouragement when people are dying that I tend to give is more like there's nothing to do, nowhere to go, nothing to become. When there's a peaceful passing, if that's the suggestion, nothing to do, nowhere to go, nothing to become.
Okay,
Yeah?
thank you, Ajahn.
I'd really like to encourage you all to meditate. Not now, necessarily, everybody meditate. In just more generally, I expect you probably shower once a day. Is that right? Once or twice a day? You're not like these Westerners who... And about how long does it take you to shower? 10, 15 minutes, maybe 5 minutes, something like that? 5 or 6 minutes, yeah? Sometimes. And probably if you're ladies, sometimes you put on makeup before you go out. Is that right? Sometimes. Does that sometimes take you some time? Sometimes. Yeah. So you're quite careful about how your body looks and smells, yes? And when you walk around, you're careful you don't tread on anything or make a mess. I would suggest that with the way that your mind and your emotions work, yeah, you take care to keep those clean and healthy and not so smelly. So sometimes you say, give me 5 or 6 minutes, I need to shower before I go out. Do you say that sometimes? Yeah. You arrive somewhere and you just think, sticky on, right back home, you want to shower. Then give yourself just meditate for 5 or 6 minutes. Yeah? If you say to your friends when they invite you out, give me 5 minutes, I need to meditate before I go out. Yeah, they think you're crazy, but they might not in future. Yeah? Give yourself a time, give yourself a sense of a gift to yourself, because you feel better about it. You feel better if you have a quick shower sometimes, don't you? Yeah, you feel less sort of icky. And then if you think, when you meditate, if at the end of your meditation session, even if it's only 5 or 6 minutes, it's like, oh, I feel refreshed. Yeah? So a sense of using your meditation, you're just pausing a bit to refresh yourself and give yourself as a gift. It's not like you don't feel it's some sort of chore having a shower, do you? You don't feel, oh dear, I have to have a shower, what a bore. You feel, oh, I'm going to feel refreshed if I have a shower. Yeah? You like to do it, you want to do it. If you can have that attitude towards your meditation, then you'll find that you will do it more often, and you'll feel more refreshed, and oh, that was nice. Notice how differently you feel and how differently you behave if you've given yourself 5, 6, 10 minutes to, what's happening here? How's the body here? How's this wonderful thing that I'm living with actually working? Yeah? Before you go into something, before you go shopping, when you arrive at work, you give yourself as a gift. Yeah? Not with a sense of, I have to do this, but it's a bit like you're exploring something. Like you're investigating, well, how does this work? Yeah? How does this thing of being a human being work? Like you're playing with a toy, or you'd spend enough time investigating your smartphones. How about investigating the thing that works the smartphone? So you actually sort of, this is how this thing works. Okay? That's what I'd encourage you over the next decade, to actually investigate this incredible instrument that you've been given. This is given. Nature has given this. It belongs to nature. It's given. It's yours to take care of and to use the best way. This is given. You haven't have to actually pay for this life. Your parents didn't give you an invoice at 18. No. It's given, and nature gives. Nature gives. It also doesn't care. Nature also doesn't care. So if you misuse it, it will respond. It just, it doesn't. It just keeps completely impartially. It is. This life is, and it's what humans can do is understand its limitation, understand how it is, understand how the emotions work, understand how the body works, understand how to relate to it so that it's a blessing. Because you have been blessed. If you're here now, at this time, you're a blessed human being. Having a human birth at all is a blessed thing, but you're blessed. You have enough to eat, shelter. Half the world's population probably doesn't have enough to eat, doesn't have access to fresh water, good water. You're privileged. I am too. With my accent, you're privileged. It's a gift. So use it so that it continues to be a blessing, rather than a curse, and to bless other beings. One of the ways is to actually investigate it, investigate this life, understand it. I hope that helps. It doesn't sound like too much of a or just play with this thing. It's amazing. Encouraging, I hope. I really confused you or shut you up. Any other things that you'd like to ask about? Politics, football? I don't know very much about them.
Good morning, Ajahn. I have a question regarding New Year resolution. So typically Singaporeans are goal-oriented, so we set a goal and we work towards that. I used to be like that. Now I don't really have goals to work towards. I just let things flow along the way. I would like to seek your advice if this is dispassionate towards life, or is there any precautions that you would advise so that I can still continue to walk the path in Buddhism?
It's helpful to what will liberate is the knowing. That's what's liberating. That sense of buddham saranam gacchami. Awakening is what will liberate. With success, if you want to succeed in something, there's called the roads to success. You've probably heard about them. Chandaviriya Chittagamangsa, which are aspiration, energy, keeping things in mind, and working out how to get there. And sometimes people think, well, Buddhists shouldn't have any desires. And what I would suggest is that you have aspirations rather than resolutions. Yeah? An aspiration comes from a sense of I can do this. Rather than thinking, if I get this, then I'll be happy. If you set that up, what you're feeding is a sense of, I need something else to make me happy. Yeah? If you have an aspiration, it's more like, I can do this if I give energy, if I remember what I want to do, and if I work out how to get there, I can do this. Yeah? And that comes from a much softer place, in terms of, and a much more compulsive, less compulsion in it. Yeah? If you think, I have set a resolution, I have to do this, then even if you get it, what you've put into that is an energy that hasn't found a completion. Because that sense of, I have to do this, doesn't find a completion when you get there. It actually feeds that again. Yeah? That energy then still hasn't found a completion. It still becomes, I can do this. I have an aspiration to do this. Whether I get there or not, I'm not worried. I'm going to aspire to do this. I can succeed. I will put the effort in. I will remember where I want to go. And I'll work out how to get there. Doesn't that whole sense of, rather than, I resolve, I have to have this. Or I resolve, I'll never do this. What the effort, the energy that you put into that, the causality that you put into that, is always going to feed a sense of incompletion. Yeah? Whereas if you have because that comes from a sense of too tight. Yeah? And that's Attakila Yoga. It makes for more stress. Karma Sankalipana Yoga is, this will make me happy. If I get this, then I'll be happy. That is never going to work either. I'll only be happy if this happens. You're feeding a sense of lack. Yeah? This is going to have to make me happy. Whereas if you come from a sense of, I can aspire to do this, I can pass this exam, I can get this promotion, this is possible. If the causes and conditions arise, if it works out, this is something I can aspire to. That I can aspire to this promotion. I can aspire to help this. It's not, to say that you shouldn't want anything. I shouldn't. That just makes it confusing. Yeah? Whereas if you set the direction, it really helps. And if your basic direction is Buddham Saranam Gacchami, Dhammam Saranam Gacchami, that's an aspiration. My refuge is the Buddha, my refuge is the Dhamma, my refuge is the Sangha. That's an aspiration. Yeah? I can do this. Yeah? And then you come much more from a sense of, and once you're feeling that is a sense of I've got enough. I can work with this. And all you need to get across is a raft. Yeah? And that sense of, I can do this, using my hands and feet to get across to the other side, is the sutra about the raft. So use what you've got to get through to the end of suffering. And if you're making aspirations not to do something, I don't have to do this. If I keep repeating this habit, it's not going to do me any good. I can give up smoking, or I can give up this habit that is actually detrimental to me or to others. I don't have to keep following it. I'm okay without this. Yeah? Well, I have to give this up. It is going to make life difficult for yourself. Yeah? It's not going to work. Sometimes you just have to say, no, I don't do this. And when you make an aspiration, adhitthana is one of the paramitas. Adhitthana is resolution. Yeah? It's one of the paramitas. It's one of the habits that is actually helpful to have, is an adhitthana. But adhitthana is remembering in the moment. Yeah? The resolution is making a New Year's resolution. Okay. I cannot gossip. Yeah? My resolution is, I'll resolve that I don't have to gossip. And then when it comes up you want to gossip, oh, I remember I don't gossip anymore. Yeah? And it's a remembering in the moment rather than a beating yourself up if you find that you do gossip. Yeah? It's a remembering in the moment. That's how to work with things. Well, I want to make sure that I practice so much for this every day. You know, I have to learn this skill, how to crochet or how to do something. I can do this. Working out how to make resolutions so that they're not burdens and you don't beat yourself up with it. Either resolving to do something or not do something. Does that help a bit? Yeah? Because to say you shouldn't is just to make another whole problem for yourself. I shouldn't have any resolutions. Find out ways to resolve and aspire in a way that brings joy. So make your life a blessing. Thank you. Yes? Yes, please. Oh, I just want to mention something before we go on. Don't feel you're trapped here. Okay? Some of you have other things to get on to, or you want to do something else, and you think, I shouldn't leave before the Ajahn stopped talking. You're quite welcome to leave if you've got other things to do. Please don't feel trapped. It's quite fine to do that, okay? I'm not, I won't feel that you're being impolite at all. Right? But anyway, I'm quite happy to stick around. So if you have another question, you're welcome.
Bhante, I got two questions. The first question is, normally in the Dharma talk, we heard that Bhante, they always talk about when you practice, then when you don't progress, what should you do? My question is, what if when we practice, we progress, then don't have the confidence to continue to progressing because there's a very troubling feeling inside, and something will stop all kind of practice so that don't progress. The main thing is don't progress. So when everything die down, then continue to practice again, and then the same thing I've been repeating for many years. Then going to advise Ajahn, what should I do? This is the first question. Then second question is about just talking. Ajahn had mentioned about the last breath moment when we death. I've been questioned by two of my close kins. They're asking about for other traditions, Mahayana traditions, that they have a pure land, a place that once you end this world, you go to another place. But for Theravada itself, we always talk about mindfulness of the breath, keep your mind over there. And then I've been questioned about then where are they going? Then standard answer is, okay, don't worry, you follow your good karma going. But that is theoretical standard answer, correct answer. But in terms of we ourselves, we are in doubt, and there's a fear over there that because in our daily normal life, right, we always used to that kind of life that once you leave this place, you go to another place, or you go home, there always is a next destination. But once we go to end this life, right, there wasn't a destination. Just like Bhante mentioned about going nowhere, it's just like that. But Bhante mentioned it's peaceful. But what I experience and I see people experience, it wasn't peaceful. It's a little bit scary.
The unknown is scary. The unknown can be scary. Not knowing is scary. And finding a sense of solidity and security when things are scary. With your meditation, coming to a sense of trembling. I don't know what's going to happen next, and then drawing back. And that sense of insecurity. It's not wrong. The first thing is to recognize there's nothing wrong with this. Right? It's not something that somehow you have to feel, I'm somehow wrong for feeling this. I should stop meditating because it makes me tremble and I don't know how calm it's going to get and I don't know what's going to happen if I just keep meditating. That's not wrong. Okay? That's the first thing. It's just like this. Yeah? And how to deal with it, how to go around it, it's actually fine, it's actually showing, it's actually revealing you're close to the unknown. And the unknown, as you again, when you're talking about death, the question was really about the unknown. So actually the two questions are actually quite close. Am I right? You were talking about what happens after death, and a question of what I don't know. Both are quite. Am I right?
Not really about after death. At the moment of death.
At the moment of death.
When you're going to let go, and that kind of a confidence to let go instead of the kind of
the confidence to let go at the moment of death. Then and the confidence to let go at the moment of meditation, when the mind is fluttering. Yeah? In that sense, the questions were linked. Yeah? And that's how I heard it. I heard that they were both about what to do when you reach that point of I don't know what's happening next. Yeah? And that's where, sometimes when you don't know what's happening next, you can be actually quite beautifully surprised. Yeah? You're quite excited about what's going to happen next. If you're opening a present from somebody you love, you don't know what's inside, do you? But your sense is, oh, this is going to be lovely. Yeah? You're opening a present, you don't know what's inside, but you have confidence that it's going to be lovely. Yeah? It's exactly the same. For one, you're frightened. I don't know what's inside. I don't know what's happening next. I don't know what's behind the door. Yeah? If I go through this door, what will I find there? Yeah? And that's scary. But if you're confident when you're opening a present that it's from somebody you love, and you get, oh, I'm going to open it. Do you see what I mean? They're both the same things you don't know. But for one, you're quite excited and lovely about it, and for the other, you're quite frightened. They're both responses to the unknown. Yeah? And knowing that there are these two responses is really helpful, because it's just the unknown. Yeah? It's the unknown. What can give you confidence? What can give you confidence that whatever happens when you open that door, whether it's scary or whether it's beautiful, is your precepts. Actually, if you've trained, if you feel that you're confident enough that you've not done anything, you haven't bombed any churches today, you haven't killed, yeah, you haven't killed anybody, you've not done anything terrible, yeah, then whatever happens next, you'll be able to cope with it. Yeah? And that's what can give you confidence, your precepts. And also recognizing on a smaller level, recognizing that you're often entering the unknown. Actually, every time you open a door, you don't know what's going to happen next. Yeah? Notice the unknown as often as you can, so you're friendly with the unknown. Yeah? So you're friendly with the unknown. Yeah? If you want to practice dying and being reborn, you can do that. I'll tell you how you can do that. You go to sleep. Do you sleep sometimes? When you go to sleep, you can recognize, going to sleep, and putting the body down. And then, what's your first thought when you wake up? Oh, is that the time? You can reprogram that thought. Anybody can reprogram that thought. You know, on your computer screen, you have programs that start when they boot up. Yeah? You can reprogram your boot up program when you wake up. You can decide how you want to wake up. Yeah? You can decide what your first thought is. It's not difficult. It's something you can experiment with. You can say, I'd like to wake up with this thought. You have to decide what that thought is. And I suggest that it's something that you really like. You know, may I be well, may other beings be well, or I take refuge in the Buddha. You know, whatever it is, you decide, because you're a human being and you can decide things. You can make karma. Oh, yeah? You decide, this is what I can do, I want to wake up with this thought. And then you go to sleep, as you usually do. Then if you wake up in the night, if you remember, you think that thought. If you don't remember, you go back to sleep. You wake up in the morning, you've forgotten. But as soon as you start thinking, you'll remember the thought. At some point, maybe it's at breakfast, you think, I should have thought that thought first thing. Okay? Repeat. Repeat. You have to repeat this. Sorry, it's a habit that you have to get into. You repeat it enough, and you'll find that automatically when you wake up, you'll have that thought. Yeah? And then you've practiced dying and being reborn. and you've got confidence that your first thought is going to be, oh, may I be well and happy. If you keep doing this, it will work. Sorry, you're a human being, I'm a human being, I've practiced it, other people have practiced it. It may take 3 months, it may take 3 weeks, it may take 6 months. But if you repeat it enough, you will wake up with the thought that you wish to wake up with. You know, it's funny little psychology stuff as well to do that. It's not complicated, it's just the way that the human brain works. No, and because the default is, oh, do I have to go down? But that's the default program. It doesn't have to be that program. You can change the default program. Yeah, but it takes a little bit of effort. And so that's something that's. But in terms of the unknown, and in terms of your meditation, when you sit in meditation and you feel, what's going to happen next? I don't know what's going to happen next. It's or whatever it is that makes you that flutters when you meditate.
No, you don't flutter. The meditation can go very stable. It's just that when you come up from meditation, when you have the when you meditation progress, you will have some slightly differences, more clarity in life or whatever thing, and that is things that is traveling. It's not inside the meditation when you.
No, after the meditation, things you find you're more sensitive.
Yes.
After the meditation, you find you're somewhat more sensitive, and things affect you more. Okay. Then, okay, so with that one, you have to learn how to protect yourself. Yeah? When you're going into situations, there's sometimes after retreats this happens. You've gone on a long retreat and then you come out and then everything's is too much for you. Yeah? Or you don't, and that's something. With that, when you're working with chemicals, when you're cleaning the toilet or you're working with something that's actually harsh, what do? You put on gloves, don't you? Yeah? And if you were working with radioactive stuff, you'd be even more careful. Yeah? And that when you're taking something out of the oven, do you hold on to the plate or do you put? Because you can actually be more sensitive when you protect yourself. Strangely enough, you can be more sensitive when you protect yourself. Yeah? If you're too sensitive, you get too hurt. So when you recognize you're very sensitive, just say, now be protected. And actually notice before you start reacting to things, make things a little bit distant. So you're sensitive inside, but you're not reacting so much to the stimulation. Yeah? A sense of, I can protect myself here. This is good in your work situations, or if you think work toxic situations. Yeah? When people are actually trying to attack you or something, you can actually say, oh, may I be protected? Come into yourself. You notice what's happening, but you give yourself a sense of, this is happening, but it's not something I need to respond to. I don't need to react to this. I'm protected by my mindfulness, I'm protected by my sila. Yeah? And then you're not going to do things that are actually harmful. Yeah? And you can actually not harm yourself by thinking, it's their problem, not mine. Yeah? You're not oversensitizing yourself. And so you've actually managed to, you're sensitive on the inside, but you're not fluttering on the outside. Does that make more sense? You notice things, but you're not compelled to shake with them. Yeah?
That one already went past. I keep a distance and it do work. What Bhante say, it do work, this method do work. But after that, it still have more things come. That is the thing that is...
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
Okay, just now what Bhante say, right? Okay, it do work, I keep a distance and everything, I'm not going to react, okay, just a watcher. Then it do help, But after this stage, right, the sensitivity progress further.
Does it need to progress further?
Yes, that is the thing. I mean, how come like that keep on progressing? Then it will be no ending. That's why better keep a distance to everything's. That's why I thought I did a wrong meditation, so I step out everything. Just everything cool down.
Yeah, well that's.
Don't chant, don't do meditation, don't do anything at all. Just keep a holiday.
That's like, I don't want to be sensitive anymore. I want to hide under the bedclothes.
Yeah, but can't avoid.
Pardon?
It's not avoidable.
What, hiding under the bedclothes? The thing about the Lord Buddha is that he was supremely sensitive, but always equanimous, always serene. Like you notice, but you don't feel compelled to respond. Yeah? And he was supremely sensitive, but not shaken. If your mind is always shaken, then you'll just want to give up. It'll be too difficult. Yeah? And that's not going to help you. It's not to be indifferent, but your refuge is the knowing. And the refuge is the sense of, it's like this. This is how it is. I don't need to just blindly react. I'm not compelled to be shaken by this. And then I don't know what's happening. It feels, like a whole shaking, but hey, there's something that's not shaking. Yeah, and go to the knowing. That which knows shaking is not shaking. That which is not that which knows fluttering is not fluttering. Yeah? And that's your refuge, Buddham Saranam Gacchami. Stay with the Buddha. Stay with the Buddha. And if that's, the way you go, then you'll always see the Dhamma. Yeah? When you stay with the Buddha, you'll always see the Dhamma. And if everything's always teaching you the Dhamma, where are you? If everything's always teaching you the Dhamma, where are you? If everything's always teaching you the Dhamma, where are you? You're in the Pure Land, where everything's teaching the Dhamma. Aren't you? In the Pure Land, everything is teaching you the Dhamma. That's what rebirth in the Pure Land's about, isn't it? Rebirth in the Pure Land is where everything is teaching you the Dhamma. Isn't it? That's the definition of the Pure Land. Everything is teaching you the Dhamma. Yeah? That's the definition of the Pure Land. The Pure Land is where everything is teaching you the Dhamma. Yes? Everything is teaching the Dhamma in the Pure Land. Let's be reborn in the Pure Land. How do you get reborn in the Pure Land? Everything is teaching you the Dhamma right now. Yeah? Everything is teaching you the Dhamma right now. Every breath is teaching you the Dhamma. Where is the Pure Land? Now. Yeah?
Thank you, Bhante. I think I get the definition of Pure Land wrongly. I thought Pure Land is peace, calm, nothingness.
No. The Pure Land is where everything's teaching you the Dhamma. If you listen to the Pure Land chanting, the Pure Land chanting is about where everything's teaching you the Dhamma. Yeah? If you study the Pure Land Buddhism, you don't need to study very much to know that that's what it's about. It's about where everything's teaching the Dhamma. May I be reborn in the Pure Land where everything is teaching the Dhamma. That's the prayer of the Pure Land Buddhists. May I be reborn in the Pure Land where everything is teaching the Dhamma. Because everything's pure. Yeah? And it's always peaceful. When you know the Dhamma, it's peaceful. Because the Dhamma is peaceful. The Dhamma is, it's like this. Yeah?
Thank you, Bhante. Sadhu.
We're not Pure Land Buddhists, don't worry. We are or we aren't, we're not anything at all.
Longpo, thank you so much. Can I ask another question?
Yes.
Okay. I can identify with sister's sensitivity. So, and I find that a lot of times I get overwhelmed by emotions, be it sadness or anger. So, is there a useful thought that you can advise to create that unshaken feeling in face of the emotions? Because I think the mind really needs something to hold on to, but it doesn't know what to hold on to, and every time it gets swept away by the emotions, it's very tragic.
If you Thai Buddhists would just say Buddho. It's the person you really want to live with, or what you really want to live with, is the Buddha. Yeah? And the Buddha is supreme. So actually, remembering the Lord Buddha is what I would really recommend. Often remembering the sort of stories of the Lord Buddha, and how he didn't have an easy life. In many ways, he hadn't actually quite. Even after enlightenment, it wasn't like it was all no troubles. People accused him of stuff. His cousin tried to kill him. You can think, well, at least that hasn't happened. Nobody's released an elephant to try to trample me. It's only my boss getting upset because I haven't handed in the thing on time. So you can start to and keep a sense of humour, yeah. And the book that Ajahn Vajiro is recommending is not his book that you have to buy, unfortunately, though it will be available in Thai free. Is Don't Take Your Life Personally. Don't Take Your Life Personally. That's a book that you can get. The PDF can be on your phone, don't worry, or the e-book. But that's that. And so when you feel sort of overwhelmed, one of the things is to use this body. When you feel really upset and agitated, ask yourself, is my right elbow agitated? Or my left little toe? So, you notice what's not agitated. Yeah? You're noticing what's not caught up. Yeah? If you can just take the breath enough to notice what's not caught. Yeah? And, I'm just trying to say, well, one of these might work for you. What will liberate is the Buddha, is the knowing. But finding ways to reach that is the breath, or asking yourself what's not hurting or what's not agitated, what knows agitation. Yeah? These sorts of things. I hope that helps a bit. Right? And it's like this. In the end, this is how it is. And breathe out. If you find difficulty finding your breath, and you don't quite know, then breathe out with your belly going in. And then softly sit the breath back in. Breathe out with your belly going in. Hold it out. Hold your breath out. And then sip it back in. Sip, sip, sip. Till it fills up and your belly goes out. Do that a few times. It can change your mood. Anapanasati is really helpful because you change how you are in the present moment by how you breathe. Funny, isn't it? The old thing is, if you get angry, take 3 deep in-breaths, yes? That's what they say. But you can actually shift how what you're doing is you're playing with this instrument. So you're learning how this incredible thing works. You noticed that it gets upset and agitated often, and it's blown around by emotions. Well, how can you change that? What you're asking, because you wish to suffer less, yes, is how that can be changed. And I don't know how it'll work for you, and it may not be the same every time. But that's one of the things. One of the things about other people, recognizing other people, it's usually other people that are more upsetting than things, isn't it? Sometimes it's things. When you swear at your computer, you swear at the car, whatever. Not working, but it's with other people. Remember that we're brothers and sisters in old age, sickness and death. Everybody wishes to suffer less. And people are more or less confused about it, how to suffer less. Where we are is in the same thing, really. Some people actually do wish you harm, but most people are just confused. Yeah? The people who cut across you in the traffic and slip into your thing, or the people who bump into you, they're just confused. Because you've done it yourself, you've bumped into people, stuff like that. Does that help a bit?
Yes, I have a follow-up query.
Yes.
So I understand that some ajahns recommend experiencing the emotions, like just not avoiding it and not trying to plug it, but like being with the emotions. Mm-hmm. So I'm just trying to understand that point and what Dong Po has suggested just now. So could it be such that when we are with the breath,
embrace the emotions?
Yeah.
Learn from them about their true nature. Well, yes, if they don't overwhelm you,
Okay.
If they're overwhelming, then you want to get out of them, frankly. If they're not overwhelming, then you can learn from them. But if they're overwhelming, they're overwhelming. And you really want to get out of it. You don't want to go. But the ways of getting out of it, and then actually what you do if you do get out of it is you're not stopping it. You're just giving it space to end in its own time. Yeah? You're not trying to say, I shouldn't have this emotion. But you're learning to play with it, so you're giving it space to end in its own time. Yeah? If you notice how your right elbow is when you feel very attacked, the right elbow doesn't really care. Unless somebody's actually knocking it. But and it's like it's giving space for it to actually know it. Yeah? You're not running away from it or trying to get rid of it. It's like this. This is how it feels to down. This is how it feels to feel attacked.
Thank you.
All right. Some people may need to. Are there more questions, or? As I say, if people need to go, they're welcome to go. I recognise you may have things to do, places to see, shopping to do, cleaning to do.
Any last question before we say Happy New Year?
Okay, if that's all, shall we pay respects to Long Paul? Thank you, Long Paul, for patiently answering our questions and for very skillfully doing so.